German and French clubs made Thomas Tuchel the outstanding candidate. Now he has to prove it by winning the 2026 World Cup. Rob Harris, Sky News, Wembley.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview tonight, joined by the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott. And among the stories we will be discussing, this on the front page of The Telegraph, the budget. The paper says it's to be the biggest tax raiser in history. That and plenty more when we come back.
Posing as potential workers, we get inside a scam centre.
Will we be okay? The police won't stop noticing.
No problem, no problem.
Rows and rows of people, all focused on ultimately defrauding people.
I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry.
It is essentially hell on earth, and nobody can get out.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win. Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott. Welcome and good to see both of you with us from now till just before midnight. So to the front pages then, let us start with the Telegraph. It leads on how the budget at the end of this month could bring the biggest tax rises in history, the paper says. Daily Express reports on Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who's been accused of using a bogus £40 billion black hole to justify tax-raising measures in her upcoming budget. Daily Mail leads on a warning to Rachel Reeves that increases to national insurance will be Labour's poll tax. The Chancellor will use her budget to increase capital gains tax on the sale of shares and other assets, but selling of second homes will not be affected. That is on the front of the Times. The Eye reports that today's inflation figures mean universal credit will increase by £1.50 a week in the upcoming financial year. Devastating is how the Metro describes an explosion at a block of flats in Newcastle, which killed a 7-year-old boy. The Financial Times has details of a possible takeover of Tate & Lyle, which is best known for selling sugar. The Guardian reports on police launching a counter-terrorism inquiry after a device caught fire at a DHL warehouse in Birmingham following its arrival into Britain by plane. The front of the Daily Mirror reports on a race row behind the scenes of the BBC's Mrs Brown's Boys show. The Sun reports on England's new manager, Thomas Tuchel, who's set his sights on the World Cup trophy in 2026 to end, would you believe it, 60 years of hurt. And on the front of the Daily Star talks about why EastEnders star Danny Dyer keeps his toilet roll in the wine cooler. I don't need to know. A reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of those newspapers while you listen to our guests. Let's go to Kevin and Claire. Welcome to both of you. It feels like the budget's tomorrow, doesn't it? Goodness me, how many papers have we got speculating on this thing? In the meantime, you know, inflation coming down, that's the good news, it ends there. The Daily Telegraph, the budget to be the biggest tax raiser in history. Kevin?
Actually, economic growth's been 1% in the past year, which was higher than some other periods. Anyway, no, the Telegraph are saying it's going to be the highest, biggest at 35 billion, they put it, in cash terms. Bigger than Gordon Brown, Tony Blair's in 1997, David Cameron 2010, Rishi Sunak 2021, Jeremy Hunt 2022, which were big increases, but this will be the biggest of all. And maybe it's because the public finances have been inherited and they are pretty poor, but if Labour's going to save public services, it's going to have to raise tax, and then it comes down to the question of which taxes go up, of which there is enormous speculation. And certainly the government now seems to be nodding and winking that there will be changes to employers' national insurance in some way and capital gains tax and closing inheritance tax loopholes. I mean, I'm loving the speculation. We've got 2 more weeks of it, haven't we, to be fair? Anyway, so let's go to the Daily Mail, shall we? Labour's poll tax, right. Let's crack on with the detail of the nods and the winks. What is your paper saying?
So, national insurance on employers. This is the key policy that is coming under scrutiny because Labour, in its manifesto, said it would not put up taxes on working people, including national insurance. And we asked repeatedly during the election, they were asked a number of times whether or not this included in national insurance on employers, and they refused to say. But the manifesto seemed to imply they wouldn't do this, but it now looks increasingly like they will. It'll be national insurance tax on employers, so not strictly on working people, but working people obviously have to pay it at some point. So I think they've been accused of a bit of sleight of hand here, but it does sound very much like it will be one of the main tax-raising initiatives that Rachel Reeves will be putting to the OBR tonight when she submits all her budget recommendations.
I think you could call it a sleight of hand, you could call it sneaky, but you can't say it's a broken manifesto promise, because I was reading yesterday what Laura Trott, who was the number 2 at the Treasury, put out a Tory briefing saying Labour's manifesto. Manifesto ruled out income tax, VAT, and employees' national insurance.
Well, it says national insurance.
Yeah, but it says, but they Tories knew that was employees. So if they knew, we knew, that everybody knew, because Labour wouldn't rule out employers. But the Institute of Directors here are saying it'll be Labour's poll tax. I'm sorry, no, it won't. I can't see people taking to the streets because an employer is going to pay more national insurance. What? Because a bank is. There'll be some small businesses too, but it just ain't going to be like that. And of course, it depends. Do you put up the basic rate of 13.8%, or do you say some things that are now not covered by employers' national insurance, like pension contributions, or if you get one of those car schemes where you buy a car through work, that's not, it's basically a benefit to you and it's paid to you, but it's not covered by national insurance. So we don't yet know what she's going to do, but she's going to do something. And if you believe in better public services, the cash has to be raised somehow.
Yeah. In the meantime, onto the Times, which is capital gains tax. Another nod and a wink, including, Sir Keir Starmer saying this week, 39% is wide of the mark, going up from its present figure. But what are the details then, Claire, in the Times article?
So this is suggesting that capital gains tax is something we've long known she's had an eye on. It's really interesting, actually. It says that this is going to be specifically capital gains tax on shares. I think we often think of it as a property tax, but there's something quite interesting in here saying that more than half of all capital gains actually relates to sale of shares, only 12% on the sale of property. Shares will obviously hit wealthy people who have shares in companies. It's something that, people of more humble kind of income don't really have shares, so it will be probably a tax on the wealthy. And I think the idea is that, for higher rate taxpayers, they now pay 20% on shares. That's obviously a lot less than they would pay on their income. And there's, Rachel Reeves has written in the past about making all of this making the whole system a lot more fair. And it is the case that sometimes wealthier people pay less tax on some of their streams of income than poorer people.
Now, I know you think it should be parity with income tax.
I do, actually, yeah.
Except for the arguments, which you will see everywhere, that one, you sometimes take a risk to purchase an asset. You may have delayed gratification in actually selling that asset with no income in the middle of it. So why should it be the same? And second homes being separate, is that because it would hit the buy-to-let market and already renters, the price of rent is going through the roof? So that could be disruptive to the rental market.
There are so many figures in this Times piece.
That's really tiny as well.
They've either had a briefing or they've just gone through the cuttings and reports and actually fleshed out whatever they have and done it in a really intelligent way. I hadn't realised that more than half of all capital gains is from shares, only 12% from the sale of property. Now, of course, you've got your primary home and you sell it, you make a profit. It's not capital gains. It's if you have a second, third, fourth,
there would be uproar,
100th. I mean, there's a case for it. But she's not going to go there. No. I'll upset you. I know I'll upset you. But I've always thought, look,
for people, that's their pension. Then they downsize.
People who go to work, you pay 20, 40, or 45%. I must admit, I've always thought capital gains should just be rolled in the interests of simplification and fairness. I don't see why capital gains should be lower. And you say, well, people take a risk, but somebody going and doing a 40-hour week on a till, I would suggest is working harder than somebody who's bought some shares and they go up through nothing they've done.
Yeah, I suppose it's, investments in business and the risk, therefore, and entrepreneurship and all of that. Just very quickly as well, inflation figures dictate the benefits price, obviously not pensions, because that's got a triple lock. And it does mean what? That it's lower than some people might have hoped for?
Yes, a lot of charities are talking about this. So £1.50 more a week for people receiving benefits. And it's because it's calculated on the rate of inflation in September. So next year's payments will be calculated based on that. And there is the comparison with the amount that the triple lock is securing for
pensioners. Which is more than 4% because wages growth.
Exactly. Yes. Every silver lining's got a dark cloud around it. And this, as you say, good news, inflation's come down. Yep. If you're on the universal credit basic rate, you'll just go £1.50, 1.7, while pensions are 4%. The truth is, if you've got 10% and prices are going up 10%, you'd be no better off. Yeah. You might get more in cash terms, but you wouldn't be better off. But because inflation is coming so much lower, there is scope should the Chancellor, I'm not suggesting she will, but should she wish to improve a lot of those benefits in real terms? If you went up to 2%, that would be a gain.
Yeah. People, we've got 2 more weeks of this. Look forward to it. Suck it up. Anyway, lots more still to come, including police have launched a counter-terrorism investigation after an incendiary device arrived on a plane bound for the UK. We will find out more about that in just a moment.
Trust in politics is at an all-time low. What's going wrong and can we fix it? It's from Liz. She wants to know, why is there still no sign of the Labour Party electing a woman as leader?
It's sort of embarrassing. You know, it takes a very strong man to be leader, but it takes an even stronger man to support a woman for leader.
If you want to be mean to politicians, like, crack on. The activists that go out and make elections happen, I kind of feel like just don't be horrible to them. Be polite to them in the same way that they're polite to you.
Keir Starmer has got us into government with a big majority. He was completely clear before the election that he wasn't going to be able to do the two-child benefit policy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't an early thing that comes along.
I went up to Gordon Brown and said, hello? No, yes, where is it? I said, found all these Tory candidates breaking land. Let me see it. This is brilliant.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Kev Maguire and Claire Ellicott. Welcome back. You've not gone anywhere, but there we are. To The Guardian now. This is interesting. Russia suspected, the paper says, after a device was put on a flight that caused a fire at a warehouse.
Yeah, DHL warehouse in Birmingham, believed to have arrived on a plane to Britain, 22nd of July. And it handles deliveries. Now, the head of MI5 recently talked about...
I'm going to interrupt you if you don't mind. We are getting reports from local media in Argentina that former One Direction star Liam Payne has been found dead at a hotel in Buenos Aires in Argentina. It began with a newspaper called La Nación. Other outlets now doing this from Argentina. Ex-One Direction singer Liam Payne has died. He, of course, famous for being in the X Factor. He tried, first of all, in 2008. He got quite a long way in that, told he was too young, and came back in 2010. Once again, he was eliminated until there was a change of heart from Simon Cowell and the judges, and One Direction was formed, including Harry Styles, as you can see on the left-hand side of your picture there. Liam Payne at the start, the main singer of One Direction, leading off on many of their songs through that competition, and subsequently the huge hits they had as one of, if not the most successful boy bands of the last generation. He has a son too with singer Cheryl Cole, born in March 2017. But let me bring in my guests now, Kevin and Claire. You know, he has had some difficulties, hasn't he, Claire?
Yes, I think there are some reports that he's struggled with alcoholism, that he's had some real struggles in his life. I think he's got a troubled relationship with one of his ex-girlfriends. There were some reports a couple of days ago that she was taking legal action against him. It does sound like he's had a tough time of it of late. He had some health problems growing up as well. We don't know a lot about what's gone on. We don't know what's happened, but we are getting reports from Argentina that he has died after falling off the third floor balcony of a hotel. So we just don't know as of yet. I think his representatives are being contacted. There's no confirmation of this. But it is kind of doing the round, you know, everyone's talking about it. So he was obviously a huge pop star of our time. X Factor, when it was huge, when Simon Cowell was such a big deal, you know, they were one of the first big boy bands of that era. Cheryl Cole, another fantastic big girl band, they came together, they had a baby, I think. And you know, he's obviously had a difficult time in life. We don't know what's happened, but it's a great tragedy.
Well, legions of fans, and actually he first auditioned, 5th series of the X Factor in 2008, just 14 years old. Yeah. You know, he's been at this a very long time, and his fan base is so wide, isn't it?
It's absolutely enormous. I think on Twitter, X, 33 million followers or thereabouts. Widely admired. He has been very troubled, diagnosed with ADHD, kidney problems, and of course that legal action from his former girlfriend initiated on top of, I think he was controlling the alcoholism. He was said to be dry, under enormous pressure. The reports coming out of Buenos Aires, of course, not yet verified, but the emergency services went to the hotel, police, fire crews couldn't revive the body outside. And if it is the case, this is just so tragic, because he is 31. He is only 31. He is still an incredibly young man.
And when Zayn Malik left One Direction after, you know, their string of hits, you know, they continued, gone their separate ways as well. Many of them, you know, have had extremely successful solo careers, have they not? But a 31-year-old man with a great talent as a singer, an amazing back catalogue, you know, lots of money in the bank from this hugely successful career. Desperately sad for him and indeed his young son.
No, absolutely, with Cheryl Cole. But you know, you can have fame and fortune, but it brings with it incredible pressure. You're constantly in the spotlight. Demands are made on you. You can't hide. People are always looking for you, making demands on you, and that pressure can build and build and build. Although I've got to say, we don't know quite what has happened here. We're just seeing these reports coming out of Buenos Aires in Argentina, but they haven't been contradicted, and they usually are very, very quickly if they're incorrect.
Well, he had, you know, released a second, or been working on a second studio album, and had scheduled his first solo tour dates for Latin America to take place actually last year in September 23, but forced to postpone that tour when he was hospitalised in August of that year with a kidney infection, which you've already, you know, mentioned some of the health difficulties that he had. He officially returned to music with the single Teardrops, which was released earlier this year in March 2024, single co-written with a former member of NSYNC, sync as well. So, you know, still working, acting as a producer as well. So lots for him to work at and, you know, satisfy the fans, which, you know, he broke America, South America, North America. Most bands do not do that from this country.
Yeah, and he's got huge name recognition. You know, everybody knows who Liam Payne is, and they know who his bandmates are. Harry Styles has gone on to have a very successful career. I think he's an actor now most of the time. But Liam Payne was, you know, he was one of the most prominent voices of that band, and they were from that kind of golden age of boy bands, you know, Simon Cowell, all the Psycho, his music label, everyone battling for those record contracts. Much the same as Girls Aloud, you know, Cheryl Cole, she was like, you know, the most prominent pop star of our time. I think it's really difficult, you know, we have so many big stars, people like, you know, we don't know what's happened with Liam Payne, but people like Amy Winehouse was lost far too young. Just the immense amount of pressure that fame brings, it's not always for everyone, and, you know, people can really struggle with it. Who knows what's happened in this instance, but it's clear that he did struggle with some of the pressures.
Well, you realise straight from the first single of One Direction, What Makes You Beautiful, what a, you know, fantastic band, what a cheery band this was going to be for young and old alike. I'm a massive fan myself, I have to say, and I've watched all of the X Factor you know, live shows that they performed in. You know, they brought the crowd together. They raised a smile. You know, they had so much to give. It was, you know, a shame when the band split up. But nonetheless, as individuals, they came across as really, you know, humble. He's from
Wolverhampton.
From Wolverhampton.
Yeah, in the West Midlands. Yeah, you know,
son of a nurse.
Yeah, the ordinary lad with an extraordinary talent who gets a huge opportunity, which he takes with both hands, and incredibly successful, as you both said, one of the most successful boy bands in history. But that brings with it enormous